You heard the news. Bills GM said a trade for Antonio Brown, did not make sense. And that's why trade talks ultimately fell apart. Originally reported by Ian Rappaport for NFL Network that a trade was imminent, that the Bills were definitely close to acquiring Antonio Brown. Ultimately, that's something that didn't happen. According to Bills GM Brandon Beane, he said, we inquired about Antonio Brown on Tuesday and kept talks open with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had positive discussions, but ultimately it didn't make sense for either side. As great a player as Antonio Brown is, we have moved on and our focus is on free agency. Here's the bottom line. Antonio Brown should thank his lucky stars. He should thank his lucky stars. You don't really have a quarterback yet in Buffalo. You don't really have that yet. They're certainly not a good team. You want to position yourself to compete for championships. That's not going to get it done for you. That ain't the answer. Buffalo Bills weren't the answer for Antonio Brown. He's lucky the Steelers didn't send him there. He's very lucky. Personally speaking, in my perfect world, somebody like the New York Giants, who already have Odell Beckham Jr. Could you imagine if Antonio Brown was on the other side of the field, opposite Odell Beckham Jr., with a quarterback that wasn't named Eli Manning, and instead was Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State? Could you imagine that? Now, obviously, that's fool's gold. That's not going to happen. I was just fantasizing. Another fantasy would have been, since I'm a Steelers fan, him remaining in Pittsburgh. That's not going to happen. Another fantasy, him going to Green Bay and having Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. But with that fan base and a rookie executive at the GM slot, that's not going to happen. Or rookie head coach, I'm sorry. And Matt LaFleur. I mean, that's not going to happen.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. If you missed my opening segment today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I get to the phones, statement issued by the New York Knicks Saturday night following this debacle that James Dolan found himself in. He says, quote, the Knicks statement said, quote, our policy is and will continue to be that if you are disrespectful to anyone in our venues, we will ask you not to return. These are the pathetic, petty things that serve to embarrass the New York Knicks organization and make them unattractive for a marquee free agent. It's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing because it's petty. You have no business in the news for that. And if you show an ability to find yourself in the headlines for stupidity, just thin-skinned nonsense like this, it'll come back to bite you. I'm telling you that right now. Because the thing about it is that Dolan could potentially, if not already, make himself, if he hasn't done it already, make himself such a pariah that you'll look for anything just to be able to annoy him. That's what you'll do. Maybe Mr. Dolan should stop sitting courtside. Maybe he should get a suite where he wouldn't have to interact with most fans. Just a suggestion. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call. Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Dan. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Dan? Dan, go ahead, man. Dan, going once, going twice. Sorry, Dan. Let's go to Maurice. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Steve, hey, man, I just want to say, man, I'm a longtime Knicks fan, raised in Melbourne, New York. I'm in Greensboro now, but, man, James caught up in his feelings, Dolan. Change his name to caught up in feelings. This dude right here has got me sick. And you knew it's New Yorkers, Stephen A. What we're going to do? The next game, all them fans are going to be saying, sell the team.
That's right.
Sell the team. And all they're going to do is perpetuate this. What are you going to do, kick all the fans out and ban them, have empty seats? I mean, I'm just done.
Yeah, it's stupid. Think about that. What if the fans showed up to Madison Square Garden for the Knicks' next game and they saw Dolan there and started chanting, sell the team? What if the whole Madison Square Garden just started chanting, sell the team? Sell the team.
You know it.
Sell the team. What if they start chanting that? You going to throw everybody out? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just stupid. But the bigger point that I'm trying to make is that you don't need these kind of headlines when you're trying to get marquee free agents to come to the Garden. James Dolan is actually getting in Steve Mills and Scott Perry's way. These headlines do not help. They really don't. Appreciate the call. Go ahead, Mo. Last point. Go ahead.
Last thing, man. What free agent is going to come in with that drama? All I'm saying, does Buford does this for San Antonio? No.
Well, he's the GM. He's a GM. He's a GM. Peter Holder's the owner. But go ahead.
But I mean, just powerful people in organizations, do they do that? They don't do that. He just needs to fall back. That's all I got to say, man. I'm out.
Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Let's go to Richard. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, Venero. Yeah,
Richard, go ahead, man. Richard? Bye, Richard. James in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
What's up, Stephen? Now, I'm 38. I'm from Queens, right? And obviously I'm a Knicks fan. Now, would I have kicked the guy out? No. But at this juncture, I feel like you got people like Durant literally saying that the Knicks are making good moves right now. So at this juncture right now, why are you still screaming sell the team? Like, I look at it like this with Dolan. Right?
Stop it. Stop right there. Stop right there. With all due respect, sir, that's a very ignorant question. He's a fan. Dolan was walking by him. He said sell the team.
That's why
He wasn't yelling it. Dolan was in ESPN, was it ESPN magazine, was the article written by Ian O'Connor, where he was talking about people have bid as much as $5 billion because he was bragging about how valuable the Knicks are and how badly people want to buy them. That was Dolan. So you are a fan, and Dolan walks by you probably for the first time. Everybody doesn't have season tickets. Everybody's not out at all 141 games. And Dolan's walking by you, and you're like, hey, Jim, sell a team.
Right. That's why I started by saying, like, would I kick the guy out? No. It's petty. But I'm speaking to a bigger mindset. I think he catches too much flack. Like, as far as trying, he tried to get Donnie Walsh. That was trying. D'Antoni, that was trying. Phil Jackson, he's trying. He tries a lot. He tries with Scott Perry. Minority run office, you know what I mean? Like, the guy tries.
Stop right there. Let me tell you, I'm going to put everybody on Front Street about this. You're absolutely right. Dolan has tried. When he brought Isaiah in, Isaiah with Stephon Marbury and those boys had got to the playoffs, even though it was a less than 500 record. When he brought Donnie Walsh in, D'Antoni in, he certainly did some things then. Mike Woodson took over for D'Antoni. He won the Atlantic Division crown for the first time in 13 years. That's true. He brought in Phil Jackson when people were ready to be outside the corridors of Madison Square Garden boycotting. He brought in Phil Jackson, an 11-time champion. That's true. But you know what else Dolan did that you didn't bring up? He allows the business of Madison Square Garden to get in the way of their basketball product. How invasive they are, how paranoid they are, how, you got people working inside the Garden. You got players literally scared. And in fairness to the New York Knicks, and specifically Steve Mills, who I've spoken to, who categorically deny it, you have players scared that Madison Square Garden was listening on their phone calls. Now, in fairness to Steve Mills, he emphatically denied such a thing when he and I spoke about this over a year ago. You know the one thing he can't deny? He can't deny the players who actually said they feared that. Because they told me. And so what I'm saying to you is that I didn't say that's what they were actually doing. I said the business of Madison Square Garden and how invasive they are with PR reps standing right by people as they're doing interviews and all of this other stuff, just watching and monitoring, constantly in panic mode all the damn time. Those kind of things serve to get in the way of the Knicks' overall productivity. Why don't you just calm the hell down and relax and step back like most other basketball franchises? Why do you have to be so meticulous, so micromanaging? Why do you have to be that way?
I'm not even arguing with you, Stephen, but what I will say is that did not stop LeBron from going to play for Dan Gilbert. Dolan ain't even going to
Hold on. Dan Gilbert, that you can't compare the two. Dan Gilbert, LeBron James from Akron, Ohio. He came back for the city of Cleveland and for that area that he grew up in. That's why he came back. If LeBron James wasn't from Akron, Ohio, he never would have showed back up in Cleveland. He'd have went somewhere else because he didn't feel like he owed him anything. But he went back because you always want to be able to go back home, man.
Stephen, they had the number one pick in Kyrie, and they had a chance to put that roster together.
What's your point?
That's all that matters. That's what really matters over the owner.
What are you talking about? The fact of the matter is they won a championship. He came back to win a championship. Because of the way he departed and how much of a pariah he had created himself to be, where they were burning his jersey in effigy, where the love was gone, where people were so disgusted and hurt because they felt abandoned by LeBron James. The economy plummeted. His impact was that great. And when he came back, everything was revived. So it was more than just basketball.
You think if they didn't have Kyrie in that number one pick, he would have went back?
I'm telling you, that's part of the reason he went back to win a championship, knowing what you have available to you. He wasn't going to go back to lose, of course not, but he didn't have to come back. It wasn't like he was losing when he left. When he left, they went to 4 NBA Finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers were struggling to win 30 games a year. So even though you had Kyrie and you were able to get Kevin Love, the fact of the matter is that it didn't matter until LeBron returned. That's the truth. Have a nice day. I can't believe some people would argue with me about this stuff. I really can't. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute. Don't touch that dial. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes, do you? You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses